till I can't no more.
I got the horses in the bag. Horse stock is a tag.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Protocol 36. Today's video will be talking about the possibility of Peter Parker becoming a teacher in Marvel Spider-Man 2. Now, there could be potential spoilers for Spider-Man Miles Morales, so if you haven't played that game for some reason just yet, I would suggest you click off this video, play the game, and then come back. But at the end of Spider-Man Miles Morales, Peter and Miles have a conversation over the phone where Peter Parker is talking about leaving the Daily Bugle to find a professional job, since his other job as a research assistant ended quite badly, as you might have guessed. But Miles suggests to Peter that he should become a teacher, since he's very good at that. After all, Peter taught him. Peter first says no, but then later he says that he might think about it. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, in one of my videos where I speculated what Peter Parker's next job could be, and that it was going to be either him going back to the Daily Bugle for Marvel Spider-Man 2 or work for Horizon Labs. And I also said that Peter may go back to the Daily Bugle because he has nowhere else to work at, and in Spider-Man Miles Morales, they revealed the fact that Peter did actually go back to the Bugle as a photographer, which makes a lot of sense since Peter does need to pay his rent and definitely needs the money, so it would make sense that he would go back to the workplace that he worked at when he was a teenager. So teaching could possibly be one of Peter Parker's professional jobs in Marvel Spider-Man 2, and judging by that conversation Peter had with Miles, that looks like to be the case, which if they're going into that direction, personally I would be very happy about that, since in my opinion teaching is the best job for Peter Parker, and it would be awesome to see that. And in Marvel Spider-Man they did kind of hint at the fact that Peter could be a teacher. I also talked about it in that video, so if you're interested, it will be in the card in the right hand corner of the video. In that video I mentioned the fact that in one of the backpacks in the first game, it contains Peter Parker's ID badge at the time when he became a teaching assistant. So I think that this is probably Insomniac's way of setting up the fact that this could potentially be Peter Parker's next professional job after his other professional job, which is a research assistant, since as we know he was working for Doc Ock and he turned out to be the villain. Now, assuming that Peter does eventually become a teacher, which school would he work at? I think there's only two options: his old high school, Midtown High, which we know he attended in this universe thanks to some of his backpacks, and it was also the place where he was teaching in the comics, since that is Peter Parker's old high school. And I also think that Flash Thompson became a PE teacher in Midtown High, so we could also see Flash Thompson if Insomniac wants. But I also think that there's a very good chance that Peter could work over at Brooklyn Vision, Master School. Now, the reason why I think that Peter could work at Brooklyn Vision is because, well, we know that Peter and Miles are working together as Spider-Man of New York, so Peter could work there to, you know, keep an eye on Miles just to make sure that he's alright. Though in earlier conversations I believe Peter did say that he trusts Miles, so maybe he doesn't really need to watch over him all that much, since Miles became his very own Spider-Man, even though he's still a little inexperienced. Though I think that Peter could still lend Miles help just in case, not only helping him when it comes to his powers, but also helping him when it comes to having a normal life, since balancing both is extremely important when it comes to the mythos of Spider-Man. So that could also be possible. I can definitely see that happening, and it's probably Insomniac's way of not keeping them too far where they just reach each other on the phone. Unless Marvel Spider-Man 2 is still going to be a single player game, which personally I don't mind, but I would love it if Insomniac stuck to Peter Parker's roots and made him a teacher over at Midtown High, his old high school, which we could possibly see familiar characters there, possibly Peter Parker's older teachers who are going to be his colleagues, or people who were in the same class as Peter Parker, like Flash Thompson himself, who might be a PE teacher in the next game. And similar to how we always used to wander around in Octavius Industries and also in the Feast Shelter, where we could interact with other objects that could have been any significance to Peter Parker, like for example Aunt May's photos of younger Peter Parker, and we could see something similar where we would see a group photo of Peter Parker's class up in the wall or something. That would be pretty interesting. I wouldn't mind if Peter Parker comes back to his profession as a scientist, but I think as of right now Peter Parker will become a teacher, since as I mentioned before, this could have been set up by Insomniac from the very beginning, and it's probably what Insomniac wants as well. So if that happens, I'm going to be very happy. However, what about you guys? Do you think Peter Parker will become a teacher in Marvel Spider-Man 2? Do you even want him to become a teacher in Marvel Spider-Man 2? If so, if not, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you enjoyed this video, please like. I want more, subscribe. To begin, Protocol 36.